The invasion. The skies over New Washington burned a sickly green as the Zarkon warships descended through Earth's atmosphere. General Elena Reyes stood atop the ruins of the old Capitol building, her weathered face illuminated by the eerie glow. She'd spent her entire career preparing for this moment, but nothing could have truly readied humanity for the day the stars went dark. Status report. She barked into her comms unit, her voice steady despite the chaos erupting around her. "Ma'am, we've lost contact with the lunar defense grid," came the panicked reply. "The aliens, they're everywhere. London, Moscow, Beijing, all reporting massive casualties. Our weapons barely scratch their shields." Elena clenched her jaw, watching as another wave of sleek, insectoid craft swarmed over the city. Energy beams lanced down from their undersides, vaporizing entire city blocks in seconds. The screams of the dying were drowned out by the thunderous impacts of falling buildings. "What about Project Bastion?" she asked, already knowing the answer, but clinging to a last shred of hope. "The bunkers are sealed, General. We managed to get about 15% of the population underground before communications went dark. It's not enough." Elena closed her eyes, allowing herself a moment of grief for the billions who would perish. When she opened them again, they blazed with determination. "It will have to be enough, Lieutenant. Humanity isn't done fighting yet." She turned to her assembled staff, a mix of military personnel and civilian scientists who had refused evacuation. "Listen up. We're initiating Protocol Omega. All remaining forces are to disperse and go underground. We fight as guerrillas now." As her team scrambled to relay the orders, Elena cast one last look at the burning sky. The Zarkon had made a grave mistake in underestimating humanity's will to survive. This was only the beginning. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Samira Patel worked feverishly in the makeshift lab of Bastion Alpha. The bunker had been designed to house Earth's best and brightest, a seed vault of human knowledge and potential. Now it felt more like a tomb. "Another failure," she muttered, tossing aside the twisted remains of a salvaged alien weapon. For weeks, she and her team had been trying to reverse engineer the Zarkon technology, searching for any weakness they could exploit. A hand clasped her shoulder, and Samura looked up to see the kind eyes of her mentor, Dr. Chen Wei. "Don't give up, my dear. Remember, it took us millennia to reach the stars. We can't expect to unravel their secrets overnight." Samura nodded, taking a deep breath. "I know, it's just, every day we're down here, more people are dying up there. I feel so helpless." "Then channel that frustration into your work," Chen said gently. "Humanity has always thrived when pushed to the brink. Our adaptability, our creativity, these are our greatest weapons." As if to punctuate his words, an alarm blared through the facility. Red emergency lights bathed the lab in an ominous glow. "Attention all personnel," a voice crackled over the intercom. "Zarkon forces have been detected approaching Bastion Alpha. This is not a drill. Prepare for possible breach." Samura's eyes widened in horror. "How? This facility is supposed to be undetectable." Chen was already moving, grabbing critical data drives and shoving them into a reinforced case. "No time to speculate. We need to secure our research and evacuate to the secondary site." As they rushed through the corridors, joining the stream of panicked scientists and civilians, Samura's mind raced. Had the aliens developed some new scanning technology? Or worse, had there been a traitor in their midst? The bunker shuddered as the first impacts struck the blast doors. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and children cried out in fear. Samura clutched the case of drives to her chest, knowing that the information within might be humanity's last hope. They reached the emergency evacuation tunnels just as a deafening screech of tearing metal echoed through the facility. The Zarkon were breaking through. "Go!" Chen shouted, pushing Samura towards the escape pods. "I'll hold them off as long as I can." "But..." "No arguments. The future of our species is in your hands now, Samura. Don't let us down." With tears in her eyes, Samara climbed into the pod. The last thing she saw before the hatch sealed was Chen, standing tall with an experimental energy rifle in his hands, facing the oncoming horde. The pod shot into the darkness of the tunnel, carrying Samara and the hopes of humanity with it. As the sounds of battle faded behind her, she made a silent vow. She would finish what they had started. She would find a way to defeat the Zarkon, no matter the cost. For Chen, for Earth, for the very future of mankind. On the outskirts of what had once been Chicago, Captain Marcus Rodriguez crouched in the ruins of an old shopping mall, his squad of resistance fighters huddled around him. They were a ragtag group, former soldiers, cops, and ordinary citizens who had answered the call to defend their home. "All right, people," Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible over the distant rumble of alien machinery. "We've got a Zarkon harvester moving through Sector 7. Intel says they're rounding up survivors for processing." A collective shudder ran through the group. They'd all heard the stories of what happened to humans in the alien processing centers. Death would be a mercy compared to that fate. "Our mission is simple," Marcus continued, his eyes hard. "We hit them fast and hard, free as many prisoners as we can, and disappear before reinforcements arrive." Private Sarah Chen, barely out of her teens, but already a veteran of a dozen similar raids, spoke up. "Sir, what about the new EMP charges R&D cooked up? This could be our chance to test them in the field." Marcus nodded approvingly. "Good thinking, Chen. We'll use them to disable the harvester's shields. After that, it's good old-fashioned bullets and determination." As the squad checked their weapons and prepared for battle, Marcus felt a familiar mix of pride and sorrow. These men and women were the best humanity had to offer, brave, resourceful, and willing to lay down their lives for a cause greater than themselves. But how long could they keep this up? How many more would fall before this war was over? He pushed the doubts aside. There would be time for reflection later. Right now, there were lives to save and aliens to kill. "Remember," Marcus said as they moved out, "we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human who's ever lived, and for all those yet to be born. The Zarkon think they've broken us, but they've only made us stronger. Now let's go show these bastards what humanity is really made of." A chorus of determined hoorahs answered him as the squad melted into the shadows of the ruined city. The battle for Earth's future was about to begin anew. Underground resistance. The abandoned subway tunnels beneath New Paris echoed with the rhythmic clang of makeshift forges and the hum of jury-rigged power generators. What had once been a marvel of human engineering was now the beating heart of the European resistance. Colonel Nikolai Volkov, formerly of the Russian Spetsnaz, strode through the bustling underground city. His scarred face was a roadmap of the war's brutality, but his eyes burned with an unquenchable fire. "Report," he barked as he entered the command center, a repurposed metro station plastered with tactical maps and alien tech schematics. Lieutenant Amelia Dubois, a French computer expert, looked up from her array of salvaged screens. "We've decrypted more of the Zarkon communications, sir. It seems they're planning a major push into the Alps. They're after something specific, but we can't tell what." Nikolai frowned. The aliens had shown little interest in Earth's natural resources, focusing instead on eradicating or capturing the human population. What could be in the mountains that would draw their attention? "Any word from our American friends?" he asked, thinking of the scattered resistance cells across the globe. Amelia shook her head. "Nothing new since Dr. Patel's last transmission. She's gone dark, probably on the move again." But she hesitated, biting her lip. "Spit it out, Lieutenant." "There are rumors, sir. Whispers from the Asian networks about some kind of breakthrough. A weapon that could turn the tide." Nikolai's pulse quickened, but he kept his face impassive. Hope was a dangerous thing in times like these. Rumors and whispers won't win this war. We focus on what we know, on the battles we can fight today. As if on cue, Alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red warning lights bathed the command center in an eerie glow. Zarkon patrol detected on the surface. A voice shouted over the comms. They found one of the ventilation shafts. Nikolai sprang into action, barking orders as he moved. Seal all access points. Get our non-combatants to the deepest levels. I want every fighter topside in 5 minutes. As the underground city erupted into controlled chaos, Nikolai allowed himself a grim smile. This was what he lived for now, the adrenaline rush of battle, the chance to make the invaders bleed for every inch of earth they desecrated. On the surface, the once beautiful streets of Paris lay in ruins. The Eiffel Tower, that icon of human achievement, stood as a twisted skeleton against the smog-choked sky. It was here, amid the rubble and despair, that humanity made its stand. Nikolai crouched behind an overturned bus, his ragtag army spread out in hidden positions throughout the debris-strewn boulevard. The familiar whine of Zarkon hover tanks filled the air, growing louder by the second. "Steady," he whispered into his comm unit. "Wait for my signal." The first alien vehicle rounded the corner, its insectoid design a mockery of Earth's own war machines. Behind it came foot soldiers, their chitinous armor gleaming dully in the weak sunlight. Nikolai's finger tightened on the trigger of his plasma rifle, a reverse-engineered marvel that was one of the Resistance's few advantages. He took a deep breath, savoring the moment of calm before the storm. Now. The street erupted in a symphony of destruction. Homemade explosives detonated beneath the Zarkon tanks, flipping them onto their sides. Snipers hidden in bombed-out buildings opened fire, their armor-piercing rounds finding weak spots in the aliens' exoskeletons. Nikolai was in the thick of it, shouting encouragement to his troops as he unleashed burst after burst of searing energy. The air filled with the acrid smell of ozone and burning chitin. For a moment, it seemed as though the humans might actually push back the invasion force. But then a piercing shriek split the air, and Nikolai's blood ran cold. "Shrike," someone screamed. "Take cover." The Shrike was the stuff of Resistance nightmares, a Zarkon bioweapon that was part machine, part monstrosity. It soared over the battlefield on metallic wings, its razor-sharp talons gleaming. Nikolai watched in horror as the creature dove into the midst of his troops, slicing through armor and flesh with equal ease. He keyed his comm, knowing what had to be done. "Dubois, initiate Protocol Omega. Collapse the tunnels." There was a moment of stunned silence before Amelia's voice crackled back. "But sir, there are still people down there. And there are still people up here." Nikolai roared, ducking as the Shrike made another pass. "If that thing gets into the base, we lose everything. Do it now." He could almost hear Amelia's anguish as she replied, "Yes, sir. May God forgive us." The ground beneath their feet began to rumble and shake. Massive sinkholes opened up, swallowing Zarkon and human alike. The Shrike, caught off guard by the sudden shift in terrain, faltered in its flight. Nikolai saw his chance. With a primal yell, he charged forward, emptying his weapon's power cell into the creature's vulnerable underbelly. The Shrike let out an ear-splitting shriek as it plummeted to the ground, its wings twitching spasmodically. As the dust settled, Nikolai surveyed the battlefield. The Zarkon forces were in disarray, their attack blunted by the unexpected collapse. But the cost had been horrific. Half of his surface team was dead or wounded, and he didn't want to think about the casualties in the now-sealed tunnels. A young soldier approached, her face streaked with blood and grime. "Sir, what do we do now?" Nikolai looked at her, seeing the fear and uncertainty in her eyes. He thought of all the lives lost, of the sacrifices made, but he also thought of the whispered rumors of a new weapon, of the indomitable human spirit that refused to be crushed. "Now," he said, his voice growing stronger with each word, "now we keep fighting. We find new allies, new hiding places. We strike from the shadows and we never ever give up. Because as long as one human draws breath, this war isn't over." As the ragged remnants of his force gathered around him, Nikolay felt a spark of something he hadn't dared to feel in a long time. Hope. The road ahead would be hard, but humanity had proven time and time again that it was at its best when faced with impossible odds. The Zarkon may have won this battle, but the war for Earth's future was far from over. The Discovery. The scorched Australian outback stretched endlessly in every direction, a wasteland of red earth and twisted metal. Dr. Samura Patel squinted against the harsh sun, her makeshift radiation suit barely keeping out the worst of the heat. Beside her, a motley crew of scientists and survivors picked their way through the ruins of what had once been a top-secret research facility. "Are you sure about this, Doc?" asked Jake, a grizzled former Special Forces operator who had appointed himself Samura's bodyguard. "We're awfully exposed out here." Samura nodded, her eyes never leaving the handheld scanner she'd cobbled together from alien and human tech. "The energy readings are off the charts, Jake. Whatever the Zarkon were looking for when they hit this place, they missed something big." As they approached the collapsed entrance of the facility, Samura's device began to emit a high-pitched whine. She held up a hand, signaling the group to stop. "There," she breathed, pointing to a barely visible seam in the rubble. "Help me clear this." With bare hands and makeshift tools, they dug through the debris. As the last boulder was pushed aside, a cool rush of air escaped from the darkness beyond. Samura's heart raced as she shone her light into the opening, revealing a pristine laboratory untouched by the devastation above. "My God," whispered Dr. Yuki Tanaka, one of the few other surviving physicists from Bastion Alpha. "Is that what I think it is?" In the center of the room stood a pulsing orb of energy, suspended in a complex array of machinery. Arcane symbols scrolled across holographic displays, a mix of human and distinctly alien script. Samura approached cautiously, her mind reeling at the implications. "It's a quantum entanglement device," she said, her voice filled with awe. "But it's like nothing I've ever seen before. The power output is incredible." As the team spread out to secure the lab and gather data, Samura's fingers flew over the control panels. Years of research, countless lives lost, and now finally a breakthrough that could change everything. "Dr. Patel," Jake's urgent voice cut through her concentration. "We've got company. Zarkon dropships, at least 3 of them, closing fast." Samura's blood ran cold. They'd been so careful, but somehow the aliens have found them. There was no time to evacuate with the device. "Yuki, download everything you can," she ordered, her mind racing. "Jake, how long can you hold them off?" The soldier's grim smile was all the answer she needed. "Long enough, Doc. Just do what you need to do." As the sounds of battle erupted above, Samura made a decision that would alter the course of the war. She interfaced her personal computer with the quantum device, initiating a highly unstable but potentially game-changing process. "What are you doing?" Yuki asked, eyes wide with realization. Sending a message, Samura replied, her fingers dancing across the keyboard. "To every resistance cell we know of, and hopefully beyond. If this works, we'll be giving humanity a fighting chance." The lab shuddered as explosions rocked the surface. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and the quantum orb pulsed with increasing intensity. "It's done," Samura announced, stepping back from the console. "Now we just have to hope someone receives it." Jake's voice crackled over the comm, strained and breathless. "Whatever you did, Doc, it stirred up a hornet's nest. The Zarkon are going all out. We can't hold them much longer." Samura looked at her team, seeing the fear and determination in their eyes. "Rikus placed a blow," she ordered. "We can't let the Zarkon get their hands on this technology." As they worked frantically to set explosive charges, Samura allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The message she'd sent contained more than just scientific data. It carried the collective hopes and dreams of a species on the brink of extinction. A blueprint for a weapon that could pierce Zarkon shields, coordinates of hidden human strongholds, and a rallying cry for all of Earth's scattered children. The ceiling began to crack, alien weaponry burning through the layers of rock and metal. Samara and her team retreated to the far end of the lab, taking cover behind overturned tables. "It's been an honor," Jake said, limping in with the last of the surface defenders. His armor was scorched and dented, but his eyes still burned with defiance. Samara nodded, her finger hovering over the detonator. "For Earth," she said softly. "For Earth," the others echoed. As the Zarkon breached the lab, Samara pressed the button. The world exploded in a blinding flash of light and energy. The quantum device overloaded, releasing a pulse that rippled across space and time. In hidden bunkers and secret bases around the world, resistance fighters suddenly found their communications equipment crackling to life. Encrypted messages poured in, carrying hope in the form of long-awaited knowledge. And somewhere, far beyond the reaches of Earth's solar system, an unexpected recipient picked up the faint echoes of humanity's desperate plea. Ancient engines rolled to life as a long-dormant ally prepared to enter the fray. The tide of war was about to turn, though the cost had been unimaginably high. Samara Patel and her team were gone, but their sacrifice would light the way for humanity's resurgence. In the smoking crater that had once been the Australian research facility, a lone figure emerged from the rubble. Battered, burned, but somehow alive, Dr. Samira Patel gazed up at the sky with new determination. Her work wasn't finished yet. The real battle for Earth's future was just beginning. Operation Thunderstreak. The war room of the London underground resistance buzzed with nervous energy. Leaders from scattered human enclaves across Europe had gathered in secret, drawn by the mysterious transmission that had set resistance networks ablaze with hope. General Elena Reyes, her face more lined and hair grayer than when the invasion began, stood before a holographic display of Earth. Red markers indicated Zarkon strongholds, while blue pinpoints showed the last bastions of human resistance. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice carrying the weight of years of struggle, "what you're about to hear will change the course of this war. Thanks to the sacrifice of Dr. Samira Patel and her team, we now have the means to strike back at the Zarkon in a meaningful way." A murmur ran through the assembled leaders as Elena manipulated the hologram, zooming in on a specific location. "This is the Zarkon Command Nexus in what used to be the Swiss Alps. Our intel suggests it's the nerve center for their entire Earth operation. And now, thanks to the data Dr. Patel sent, we have a way to penetrate their defenses." Colonel Nikolai Volkov, his face bearing fresh scars from the Battle of Paris, leaned forward. "With all due respect, General, we've tried hitting their command structures before. What makes this different?" Elena's eyes gleamed with fierce determination. "Because this time we have this." She held up a small pulsing device that looked like a cross between a human smartphone and alien biotechnology. "The quantum entanglement disruptor," she explained. "It exploits a weakness in Zarakon's shield harmonics that Dr. Patel discovered. One blast from this, and their defenses will collapse like a house of cards." Excitement rippled through the room, tempered by the caution of those who had seen too many hopes dashed. "It's not going to be easy," Elena continued. "We'll need to get a strike team close enough to deploy the disruptor. That means a diversionary attack to draw their forces away from the Nexus." Maps and battle plans flashed across the holographic display as Elena outlined the daring operation. It would require coordination on a scale the resistance hadn't attempted since the early days of the war. "We're calling it Operation Thunderstrike," she concluded. "Every cell, every fighter, every scrap of resources we have left, it all comes down to this: questions." For a moment, silence reigned. Then a young woman stood up, her eyes burning with a familiar fire. It was Sarah Chen, the former private now leading her own resistance squad. "General," she said, her voice steady, "when do we start?" Elena allowed herself a small smile. "Now." The next weeks were a flurry of activity as the global resistance mobilized. Weapons were distributed, strategies fine-tuned, and last messages sent to loved ones. Everyone knew the stakes. This could be humanity's last stand. On the eve of the operation, Elena found herself standing atop a broken skyscraper, gazing out at the ruined skyline of London. The Zarkon ships hung in the sky like malevolent stars, a constant reminder of humanity's precarious position. "Penny for your thoughts, General." She turned to see Nikolai approaching, a bottle of contraband vodka in his hand. "Just wondering if we're doing the right thing," Elena admitted, accepting a drink. "We're risking everything on this operation. If it fails..." Nikolai's laugh was harsh but not unkind. "If it fails, we're no worse off than we are now. At least we'll go down fighting." They stood in companionable silence for a moment, two warriors who had seen too much death but refused to give up. "To Earth," Nikolai said, raising his glass. "To hope," Elena replied. As dawn broke, Operation Thunderstrike began. Across the globe, resistance cells launched simultaneous attacks on Zarkon outposts. It was a magnificent feat of coordination, made possible by the encryption protocols hidden in Dr. Patel's transmission. In North America, Marcus Rodriguez led a daring raid on a Zarkon processing center, freeing hundreds of human prisoners. In Asia, guerrilla fighters struck at alien supply lines, using ingenuity and salvage tech to overcome superior numbers. The Zarkon, caught off guard by the sudden planet-wide offensive, scrambled to respond. Just as planned, their forces were drawn away from the Alpine Command Nexus. Elena watched from a makeshift command center as the diversionary attacks unfolded. "Strike Team Alpha, you have a go," she ordered, her heart pounding. "May God be with you." High in the snow-capped peaks of the Alps, a small team of elite operatives began their ascent. Led by Sarah Chen, they carried with them humanity's last, best hope, the quantum entanglement disruptor. As they climbed, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought her here. From a scared teenager hiding from alien patrols to leading what might be the most important mission in human history. She touched the locket around her neck, a memento from her parents who hadn't survived the initial invasion. "This is for you," she whispered, "for all of us." The team reached the outer perimeter of the Zarkon facility just as alarms began to blare. Their diversion was working, but time was running out. "Move," Sarah hissed, and her team sprang into action. They fought their way through dwindling Zarkon defenses, the aliens clearly caught off guard by the audacity of a direct assault on their headquarters. Sarah's heart raced as they approached the central chamber, where the facility's shield generator was located. "Chen to command," she radioed. "We're in position." Elena's voice crackled back, tense but controlled. "You have one shot at this, Sarah. Make it count." Sarah took a deep breath, centering herself. She thought of all the sacrifices that had led to this moment. Dr. Patel, her parents, countless others who had given everything for this chance. "For Earth," she whispered, and activated the disruptor. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like reality itself tearing apart, the Zarkon shields flickered and died. "Shields down," Sarah shouted into her comm. "I repeat, shields are down." Across the globe, resistance fighters looked up to see Zarkon ships suddenly vulnerable, their impenetrable defenses reduced to nothing. A great cheer went up as human weapons, for the first time, began to take a real toll on the invaders. In London, Elena allowed herself a moment of exultation before issuing her next order. "All units, commence Phase 2, push them back." As humanity launched its counteroffensive, a new sound filled the skies. A deep, resonant hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. In orbit, massive ships of unknown design suddenly appeared, their sleek forms dwarfing even the largest Zarkon vessels. Beams of energy lanced out, methodically destroying the alien fleet. Elena stared at her monitors in disbelief. What in God's name? A transmission cut across all frequencies in a language that was at once familiar and utterly alien. As translation software struggled to keep up, the message became clear. People of Earth, we are the Guardians. We have heard your call, and we have come to help. The Zarkon's reign of terror ends today. As the mysterious allies joined the fray, the tide of battle shifted decisively. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity dared to believe that victory might be possible. But the war was far from over. The Zarkon, though reeling, were not defeated, and the appearance of these guardians raised as many questions as it answered. As the battle raged on, Elena Reyes steeled herself for the challenges ahead. Whatever came next, humanity would face it together, bloodied but unbroken, and with new hope burning in their hearts. The turning point. The weeks following Operation Thunderstrike were a whirlwind of rapid changes and cautious optimism. With the aid of the mysterious Guardians, humanity began to push back against the Zarkon invaders, reclaiming lost territory and freeing countless prisoners from alien processing centers. In the ruins of Geneva, now serving as the impromptu headquarters for the joint human-Guardian effort, General Elena Reyes stood before a gathering of resistance leaders and alien representatives. The Guardians, it turned out, were an ancient race of peacekeepers, drawn to Earth by Dr. Pertel's quantum transmission. "We stand at a crossroads," Elena began, her voice carrying the weight of recent victories and the memory of long defeats. "For the first time since this war began, we have a real chance at victory. But make no mistake, the Zarkon are far from defeated." She gestured to the holographic display showing the current state of the conflict. While large swaths of Earth had been liberated, significant Zarkon strongholds remained, particularly in densely populated urban centers. Guardian Ambassador Zorak, a towering figure of shimmering energy barely contained within a humanoid form, stepped forward. "We have driven the Zarkon from your orbital defenses and destroyed much of their fleet. But their ground forces remain entrenched, and our scans detect a massive energy buildup at their primary hive nexus." Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembled leaders. Nikolai Volkov, his arm in a sling from a recent battle, spoke up. "What kind of energy buildup are we talking about?" Zorak's form flickered, a sign of agitation. "If our analysis is correct, the Zarkon are preparing to activate a planet-wide terraforming device. They mean to reshape Earth's biosphere to suit their own physiology, a process that would eradicate all native life." The room erupted in shocked exclamations and angry shouts. Elena raised her hand for silence, her mind racing with the implications. "How long do we have?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her heart. "By our calculations, no more than 72 hours, Zorak replied grimly. Elena took a deep breath, surveying the room. She saw fear in many eyes, but also determination. Humanity had come too far to give up now. "Then we have no choice," she declared. "We must launch an all-out assault on the Zarkon hive nexus. Every soldier, every ship, every resource we have, it all comes down to this." As the meeting dissolved into frantic planning sessions, Elena found herself drawn to a quiet corner where Dr. Samira Patel stood, poring over alien schematics. The scientist had been rescued from the Australian outback, her survival nothing short of miraculous. "How's it coming, Doctor?" Elena asked, noting the dark circles under Samira's eyes. Samira looked up, a mix of exhaustion and excitement on her face. "I think I found a way to amplify the quantum entanglement disruptor," she said. "If we can get it close enough to the terraforming device, we might be able to overload their entire system." Elena nodded, hope flaring in her chest. "Good work. Get whatever you need. This could be the key to ending this war once and for all." As Samira hurried off to continue her work, Elena allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. So much had been lost, so many lives sacrificed to reach this point. Whatever happened in the next 72 hours would determine the fate of not just humanity, but all life on Earth. The final battle for Earth began at dawn. Guardian ships filled the skies, their advanced weaponry tearing through Zarkon defenses. On the ground, a coalition of human resistance fighters and Guardian shock troops pushed towards the heart of enemy territory. In what had once been the sprawling metropolis of New York City, now a twisted landscape of alien architecture and human ruins, Sarah Chen led her squad through the chaos of urban warfare. Every street was a battleground, every building a potential ambush site. "Keep moving," she shouted, ducking under a blast of Zarkon energy fire. "We need to clear a path for the strike team." As they fought their way forward, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. Humans wielding salvaged alien tech fought alongside ethereal guardian warriors, united in their goal to save Earth. High above the battlefield, Elena coordinated the assault from a Guardian command ship. Holographic displays showed the ebb and flow of combat across the globe, as similar operations unfolded in every Zarkon stronghold. "Admiral," she called to her Guardian counterpart, "we're facing heavy resistance in Sector 7. Can you redirect air support?" The alien nodded, its luminous form shimmering as it issued orders in its native tongue. Moments later, a squadron of Guardian fighters swooped low over the New York skyline, their weapons blazing. On the ground, Sarah and her team used the distraction to push forward. They were nearing the perimeter of the massive Zarkon hive nexus, a structure that dominated the city's center, pulsing with ominous energy. "Chen to command," Sarah radioed, her voice tight with tension. "We've reached the outer defenses, awaiting the strike team." Elena's voice crackled back. "Roger that, Chen. Hold your position. Strike team is inbound." As if on cue, a sleek Guardian dropship descended through the chaos of battle. Its doors opened to reveal Samira Patel, flanked by a mix of human scientists and Guardian tech specialists. In her hands, she cradled the modified quantum entanglement disruptor, humanity's last, best hope. "Dr. Petal," Sarah greeted, relief evident in her voice. "Glad you could make it to the party." Samara managed a grim smile. Wouldn't miss it for the world, quite literally in this case. As Sarah's team formed a protective perimeter, Samira and her group began setting up their equipment. The air thrummed with energy as the Zarkon terraforming device powered up, a doomsday clock ticking down to Earth's final moments. "How long do you need?" Sarah asked, firing off a burst from her plasma rifle to keep encroaching Zarkon drones at bay. Samara's fingers flew over the controls of her device. 5 minutes to calibrate, maybe less. Just keep them off us." The next few minutes were a blur of desperate combat. Sarah and her squad fought with everything they had, human and Guardian alike, falling to buy the scientists' precious seconds. Just as it seemed they might be overwhelmed, a familiar voice boomed across the battlefield. "Need a hand." Sarah looked up to see Nikolai Volkov leading a fresh wave of reinforcements, his injured arm apparently doing little to slow him down. With renewed vigor, the Human Guardian Alliance pushed back the Zarkon assault. Samara worked feverishly, sweat beading on her brow as she made the final adjustments to her device. "It's ready," she shouted over the din of battle. "Activating now." For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like reality itself tearing apart, a wave of energy burst forth from the disruptor. It collided with the pulsing field of the Zarkon terraforming device, creating a maelstrom of competing forces. The hive nexus shuddered, cracks appearing in its once impenetrable surface. Zarkon soldiers fell, their neural links to the hive mind suddenly severed. "It's working," Samara cried, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and terror. "But the reaction is unstable. We need to get out of here." As the quantum disruption spread, consuming Zarkon technology and structures, Sarah organized a hasty retreat. Guardian ships swooped in, evacuating humans and allies alike from the rapidly expanding zone of destruction. From her vantage point in orbit, Elena watched as a wave of energy swept across the globe. Zarkon strongholds crumbled, their technology rendered useless by the quantum cascade. "My God," she breathed, scarcely daring to believe what she was seeing. "We did it. We actually did it." As the energy wave dissipated, a stunned silence fell over the battlefields of Earth. Then gradually, a sound began to build: cheers, laughter, cries of joy and disbelief as the realization spread. The Zarkon were defeated. Humanity had won. But as Elena surveyed the ravaged planet below, she knew that the real work was just beginning. The war was over, but the struggle to rebuild, to heal, to forge a new future for Earth and its people, that was a challenge that would require all the strength, ingenuity, and hope that humanity could muster. With a deep breath, she opened a channel to address the victorious forces. "This is General Reyes to all Allied forces. Stand down and prepare for recovery operations. The war is over. I repeat, the war is over. We've won." As celebrations erupted across the globe, Elena allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. They had faced extinction and emerged victorious. Whatever came next, humanity would face it together, bloody but unbroken, and with a newfound appreciation for their place in a vast and wondrous universe. The dawn of a new era for Earth had begun. A new dawn. The years following the Zarkon defeat were a time of both unprecedented challenges and remarkable progress for humanity. As the dust settled on the ravaged planet, the enormity of the task ahead became clear. Entire cities lay in ruins, ecosystems had been irrevocably altered, and the human population had been decimated. Yet, amidst the devastation, hope flourished. 5 years after the final battle, Dr. Samira Patel stood on a platform overlooking the sprawling reconstruction efforts in what was once downtown Manhattan. The cityscape was a curious blend of human architecture, repurposed Zarkon structures, and gleaming Guardian technology. "Quite a view, isn't it?" a familiar voice said behind her. Samira turned to see Sarah Chen approaching, the former resistance fighter now serving as head of Earth's new unified defense force. "It's incredible," Samira agreed, her eyes taking in the bustle of activity below. "Sometimes I can hardly believe how far we've come." Sarah nodded, a wry smile on her face. "And to think, 5 years ago, we were fighting for our very existence. Now look at us, rebuilding, growing, reaching for the stars again." The two women stood in companionable silence, watching as a Guardian ship gracefully maneuvered between the half-finished skyscrapers, its anti-gravity technology assisting in the construction efforts. "Are you ready for the big announcement?" Sarah asked, glancing at her watch. Samira took a deep breath, smoothing down her formal attire. "As ready as I'll ever be. I just hope the world is prepared for what we're about to share." Together, they made their way to the newly constructed Global Unity Center, where representatives from every nation on Earth had gathered. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation as Samira took the stage, facing not just the assembled dignitaries, but countless millions watching via holographic broadcasts around the world. "Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, and citizens of Earth," Samira began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "5 years ago, we faced annihilation at the hands of an alien force. We survived through courage, ingenuity, and the unexpected aid of the Guardians. Today, I stand before you to announce that we are ready to take our place among the stars." A murmur rippled through the crowd as Samira activated a holographic display, showing a sleek spacecraft unlike anything seen before. "I present to you the Phoenix," she continued, pride evident in her voice. "The first in a new fleet of starships, combining the best of human innovation, Zarkon salvage technology, and Guardian engineering. With these vessels, we will be able to explore our galaxy, establish colonies on distant worlds, and ensure that humanity will never again be vulnerable to a single point of failure." The announcement was met with thunderous applause, a mixture of excitement and trepidation palpable in the air. As Samira fielded questions from the audience, she couldn't help but reflect on the incredible journey that had led to this moment. Later that evening, a more intimate gathering took place in the reconstructed Oval Office of the White House. General Elena Reyes, now serving as Earth's first global security advisor, sat with a small group of key figures who had been instrumental in humanity's survival and rebirth. The Phoenix Project is just the beginning, Elena said, looking around at the assembled faces. We've been given a second chance, not just to survive, but to thrive. The question is, what do we do with it? Nikolay Volkov, his hair now streaked with grey, leaned forward. We must remember the lessons of the war. Unity, adaptability, the courage to face the unknown. These are what saved us. They must guide us as we move forward. Guardian Ambassador Zorak, its ethereal form shimmering softly, added its perspective. Your species has shown remarkable resilience and potential. The Galactic Council awaits your full integration with great interest. But be warned, the universe is vast, wondrous, and not without its dangers. As the discussion continued late into the night, touching on topics ranging from off-world colonization to the ethical implications of integrating alien technology, a sense of cautious optimism pervaded the room. 1 year later, Samara found herself standing on the observation deck of the Phoenix as it prepared for its maiden voyage. The ship hummed with power, a testament to what could be achieved when humanity worked together and embraced new ideas. Sarah Chen, now captain of the Phoenix, approached with a tablet in hand. Final systems check is complete, Doctor. We're ready to make history. Samara nodded, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. As the ship's chief science officer, she would be at the forefront of humanity's greatest adventure yet. There's something poetic about this, isn't there? Samara mused, gazing out at the stars. Not long ago, we were fighting desperately just to survive on our own planet. Now we're about to take our first real steps into the cosmos. Sarah smiled, understanding in her eyes. It's more than that. We're carrying the hopes and dreams of everyone back on Earth. Every person who fought, every life lost. This journey is for them too. As the final countdown began, Samara thought of all they had endured and overcome. The Zarkon invasion, as terrible as it had been, had ultimately united humanity in a way nothing else could have. It had forced them to confront their own fragility in the universe, but also revealed their incredible potential. Phoenix, you are clear for departure, came Elena's voice over the comm system. Go forth and show the galaxy what humanity is capable of. With a surge of power, the starship broke free of Earth's gravity. As they accelerated towards the unknown, Samara felt a profound sense of purpose. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever wonders or terrors the universe held in store, humanity would face them together, no longer alone in the cosmos, but as part of a greater galactic community. The Phoenix streaked across the solar system, carrying with it the indomitable spirit of a species reborn. As Earth faded to a small blue dot behind them, Samara knew that this was not an end, but a beginning. The next chapter in humanity's great adventure was just starting to unfold. And somewhere, on a distant world not yet known to humankind, new discoveries, challenges, and opportunities awaited, a future limited only by the bounds of imagination and the unwavering determination of the human spirit. The stars beckoned, and humanity answered the call.